They came looking for God, but found only sand. Tens of thousands of European knights in the scorching summer of 1187, tens of thousands of men who thought they were invincible, who rode into the Middle East to seize Jerusalem, only to die thirsty in the wilderness. Welcome to my channel. This is the story of the Crusaders and the battle that broke their spirit, the Battle of Hattin. It's a story of arrogance and thirst, of desperation and death, and of the man who led the Muslim armies of Islam to victory over the Crusaders, Salah ad-Din, or Saladin as the Europeans called him. Now, there are different ways to measure the Crusades, but by the 12th century, the Crusader states had become a permanent fixture in the Levant. They held Jerusalem, yes, but also cities like Tyre, Tripoli, and, most importantly, the fortress of Hattin in northern Samaria, right here. But for all the Crusader victories in the past, the Muslims never really accepted their presence, and this simmering resentment would eventually boil over. But it wasn't until 1183 that the Muslim princes united under one banner, the banner of Saladin. And when he did, he set out to conquer the whole of the Levant. But the man who would become a legend didn't just want to beat the Crusaders, he wanted to break them, humiliate them, prove that European knights weren't invincible. And in 1187, he saw his chance. The year before, the Crusader king, Guy of Jerusalem, seized the county of Edessa in northern Mesopotamia. No big deal, except that it was held by Saladin's nephew. So, naturally, he called for revenge. And what followed was a classic Crusader special, a massive, ill-prepared, almost suicidal charge into the desert. 40,000 men, perhaps even more, all marching into the Syrian desert in the middle of July, all without water, all under the blazing Middle Eastern sun. But instead of chasing them, Saladin harassed them. His light cavalry lashed out, then pulled back. They kept just out of range. His archers cut off any escape. They forced the Crusaders to keep moving, deeper and deeper into the unforgiving wilderness. And while the Europeans charged bravely into the unknown, Saladin sent a letter to the governor of Hattin, urging him to close the gates. Why? Because Saladin knew that these knights wouldn't find water in the desert. They'd come begging at his doorstep. And that's exactly what happened. After 2 days of walking, the Crusaders reached the twin hills of Hattin, only to find the road blocked by Saladin's army 30,000 strong. And when King Guy realized what had happened, that he'd been trapped, that he had no choice but to fight, he charged uphill. Now, we don't know exactly what happened next, how the battle unfolded, but what we do know is that the Crusaders had almost no chance. Their horses were exhausted. They had no water. Their swords grew heavy. In the high heat, their armor turned into a furnace. And worst of all, they faced a master tactician, a brilliant commander. And that's why one by one, the Crusader knights collapsed, not from exhaustion, but dehydration. They died thirsty under a cloudless sky. Some sources say that 10,000 Crusaders died at Hattin, others that it was 20,000. But whatever the numbers, the loss was complete. The Crusader army was wiped out. Many drowned in a nearby lake. Others burned to death in their armor. Some ate their own swords, still thirsty. They hacked at the leather straps, hoping to drink their own blood. And many begged for death, cried out for mercy. And in the end, most got it, but not from Saladin. The European knights who survived the Battle of Hattin, and there were very few, were taken prisoner by Saladin. He collected the Crusader leaders, including King Guy, and paraded them through his camp. Some were put to death, others forced to walk barefoot behind his army, and still others sold into slavery. As for Saladin, he was merciful. He gave King Guy a cup of water, but not enough for him to drink. The message was clear. Mercy is mine, to give and to withhold. But his magnanimity was a lie. The slaughter of Hattin was only the beginning. Over the next 3 months, Saladin swept through the Levant. Fortress after fortress opened their gates. City after city fell without a fight, including Jerusalem, which fell on October 2nd, 1187. Most of the inhabitants left with their lives, But Saladin took everything else: the gold, the jewels, the furniture, the books, even the clothes off the backs of the Crusaders. As he rode into the conquered city, he looked down from the Tower of David and told his men, "I have never wished for anything so much as to see all these people freed from the yoke of the infidels." The Muslim world went wild. The Sultan of Delhi sent congratulations. The Caliph proclaimed a holy day. The women of Cairo danced in the streets. And in the great mosques of Islam, the muezzin called out the news 5 times a day for 50 days. For Saladin, the Battle of Hattin wasn't just a military victory. It was personal, a matter of faith, a struggle between two worlds, European and Arab, Christian and Muslim. And he won. In fact, Saladin might have crushed the Crusaders at Hattin, but he was actually a brilliant administrator. He recognized that the real threat wasn't the European kings. It was time. With Western Europe sliding into a cold and dark winter, the Crusader alliance fractured. England and France split over the spoils. And in the end, Saladin achieved more than he ever imagined. He kept Jerusalem for himself. He forged a new Muslim identity across the Levant and became a legend of Islam. As for the Crusaders, they lost more than a battle. They lost their destiny. The European knights who survived Hattin retreated behind the Mediterranean Sea, back to the relative safety of their coastal cities, which were protected by sea. And there they regrouped, rebuilt, and returned to the offensive. But now they fought not to conquer the Levant, but to survive it, to hold on to a sliver of land that was surrounded by a hostile population, that had no hope of expansion, that had no intention of coexistence. Hattin was a disaster, but it was also a lesson, one that the Crusaders would never forget. Thanks for watching.